So my name is Janet Freeman, and I'm a Community Outreach Librarian at Courthouse Libraries, BC, where I coordinate a program called Law Matters, assisting public libraries in providing legal information. I also assist with editorial work and training on ClickLaw. Our public legal information portal was featured in the first webinar 4 weeks ago. And today's webinar is the final of 3 webinars leading up to the Just a Click Away National Conference on February 23rd, 24th in Vancouver. The pre-conference webinars feature approaches being used in various jurisdictions to provide access online to public legal education and information. So today's agenda, we're just going to do a little bit on housekeeping. We're going to talk about the Click Away initiative, and then we'll have our 5 presenters from the 2 websites. Each have 15 minutes to present. And then we'll have a question and answer segment, and we'll do a wrap-up at the end. So just on housekeeping, your phones are on mute automatically so that everyone is not distracted by background noise. And if you have questions, again, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature on the right-hand side of the screen. And if you'd prefer to ask your question using a phone, you can raise your hand by clicking on the Raise Hand button. All right, so a bit of context to get things started just about the Just a Click Away initiative. It's aimed at how we enhance access to justice through effective use of technology for public legal education and information. Just a Click Away is funded by the Law Foundation of Ontario's Access to Justice Fund and is coordinated by Courthouse Libraries, BC. And we want to recognize the Just a Click Away Advisory Committee, drawn from groups across the country. So we have Deborah and Drew and Fiona and Hubert, Julie and Mary and Patricia and Penny, all on our advisory committee. It's very valuable having so many different people from across the country help us. So this webinar series is the 2nd stage of Just a Click Away. And the first stage, at conferences organized by Educaloi last fall, we looked at how social media can be used for legal information. And there's a report on the Just a Click Away website. Again, justaclickaway.ca. In this webinar series, we're looking at approaches being used in various jurisdictions to provide access online to public legal education and information. And these webinars are being recorded and are available for anyone to watch afterwards. These webinars lead up to a national conference in Vancouver, February 23rd and 24th, 2011. The conference will feature opportunities for public legal education and information providers to develop skills, share experiences, and identify opportunities for collaboration, and to explore new ideas and continue to be leaders in using technology to deliver PLEI. So I'd like to introduce our panelists, who will be telling the stories of 2 public legal education websites, Educaloi and InMyLanguageorg. These websites are different than the ones we explored in the first 2 webinars. In those webinars, they featured portal websites, sites that have as their primary purpose providing a window into content on other websites, aggregating and showcasing content from many providers. The 2 sites today featured are content-rich sites, ambitious sites that provide a great deal of content in one site. And we'll learn about the rewards and challenges of creating and maintaining sites that are rich in content they develop themselves. The 2 sites featured today also have in common delivering their content in multiple languages. So from Quebec, Équipe Educaloi we have Hubert David, Head of Information Technology, and we have Miriam Farag, the Web Editor, and Sarah Doherty, who is the Content Manager. And the next website from Ontario, Team InMyLanguageorg, we have Dave Montague, Manager of IT and New Media, and Mojda Kazemi, Content Coordinator. So welcome, everyone. As we move into the presentations, I'll just do another quick reminder about the webinar handout you should have received by email. There's snapshots of the 2 sites featured in today's webinar. And if you didn't receive it, you can download the handout now from justaclickaway.ca. Okay, at this time, I'll turn the control over to our presenters from Educaloi. So I think it's Sarah. Is it Sarah and Hubert, and Miriam.
Hello. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. A big thank you to Courthouse Libraries for these webinars. So I am the web editor for Educaloi. I'm here with my colleague Sarah Doherty, who takes care of everything to do with the English portion of the website, and with Hubert David, who is our IT specialist. So today we're going to talk about a content-based website, which is different from the portals we've been seeing the last couple of webinars. The portals, they direct you to different places where you can get the resources, whereas on a content-based website, all the resources are found in one place. So it's a bit of a different model, and it has different challenges and advantages depending on which model you choose. So on your screen, you should be seeing Educaloi's website. This is the page on which you fall if you type in our address. We have three major sections to our website. We have La Loi Vos Droits, Côté Court, and Jeune pour Jeune, which is our youth zone. In La Loi Vos Droits, you have, if you click on that icon, you end up navigating by clientele. So depending on what you're looking for, you'll click on one or the other of the clientele. So parents, owners, Native people. If we click, let's say if we click on the married and civil union spouses, you'll end up in a page where you could see all the info sheets that have to do with that specific clientele. We have over 250 info sheets in the La Loi Vos Droits portion of the website. And you might ask yourself, what is an info sheet for Educaloi? If we click on the right to get divorced, we end up in that info sheet. An info sheet in a nutshell is a situation that we present to people. So in this one, it would be Gary and Rebecca's relationship is going downhill. You know, they have certain questions about divorce, but it could be on any other topic, but they all follow that same structure. And then you have questions that we'd assume people would ask, or things they want to know something about. Who can ask for a divorce? I want a divorce, but my husband doesn't. Can he stop me from getting a divorce? And then if the person goes and clicks on the question, you'll see the answer come up, like on the web shot I have there. No, it's enough if only one of you wants the divorce. And so our info sheets primarily, like, they all look like that. Then we have our section called Côté Court, which is about the court system. We have different levels of courts, which we explain. So we have a description, and then we have, so that's the description of the court. And then we have an illustrated courtroom with different characters on which you can click and then find out more about the character. What does the judge do? What does the jury do? So on and so forth. And finally, you have a step-by-step guide to the procedure, what happens in the court. Once you're arrested, if you appear, bail hearing. This one is the criminal law one, as you can sort of intuitively guess. So if you click on those, you can get all that information. Finally, we have our Jeune pour Jeune section. That's our youth zone. So in there we have games, we have comics, we have a teacher's corner, different careers in justice, and again we have info sheets. So the same kind of structure of info sheets. We have 50 info sheets at the moment in the Jeune pour Jeune section, which is the youth zone. So in those different info sheets look a lot like the one I presented earlier, but they're targeted towards youth. So how do we manage all this? We have our content management system, which is Profusio at the moment. And the back end of our website looks like what you have on your screen right now. So we have the different questions that we can enter in the question box, and then we will put in the answer box where it says réponse. If you see, there's at the réponse part down, all the way down on your screen, you'll see capital G, little I, capital T, W. What are those? Those are to format the content. So if we want to put something in italic, it won't automatically be in italic even if it was in italic in our Word document. We have to completely reformat the content every time we try to put something online. So how do we keep all this updated? If you think about it, we have over 300 info sheets that we need to keep updated. What we do is we create Word documents in both languages for the info sheets, and we put where the information comes from. So what's the source? Where does this information come from? In my example, you'll see in the comment form, you'll see Article 822 Code de procédure civile, which is section 822 of the Code of Civil Procedure. And we'll have those sources also for case law. So where does it come from in the law, in books? Does it come from a book? Does it come from case law? So all our info sheets look like this. And then we start looking at what Parliament's up to. So we look at Parliament, the Quebec Parliament, and the Federal Parliament, so the National Assembly and the Federal Parliament, and we follow the bills and we try to see, okay, will this affect our content? Is this bill important for us? Now, one of the tools that helps us do this is something called Kopernik Tracker, which might be of interest to some of you. It's something we bought, and it's not very expensive, and it allows us to track changes to web pages. So what happens is if we put it here, we put it on the Gazette, the Canada Gazette, we'll get, if the web page changes, so if they update it and they add a new Gazette, we'll get an email automatically sent to us with the highlighted what has changed on the page. So you'll see here they added a Gazette on the 29th of January 2011. So that's what's changed. We could do this also for the bills, for the different bills that government, or for anything else for that matter that's on the web. And then to keep track of court decisions, we have we basically subscribe ourselves to different newsletters, and in particular in Quebec, if you pay, you could get a specific newsletter tailored to your need about the very important court decisions in different different branches of the law. Now, as you all know, and the web is very interactive, and it's getting more and more interactive. So how do we reach out to our users? Well, we've been doing something called Educaloi.tv, which are YouTube videos on different topics. So that's one of the ways. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter. And more and more, we're trying to interact with our users, get them to speak to us, speaking to them. We also have our corporate newsletter. Now, what we all want to know is, are we reaching the people we're trying to reach, and what should we do to improve our ways? You know, everybody always wants to get better at what they're doing. You know, although you're good, you try to get better. So what we have on the website itself, we have a little evaluation box. You'll see an arrow at the bottom corner of your screen, bottom left corner, where people could say that the info sheet is helpful, very helpful, helpful, not very helpful. And we get all those stats in the back end of our website. Also, users can send us emails, which they do, on what they like or don't like about the website. And we have Google Analytics, which is a really interesting tool, and we get so much information out of that. And we've actually used that to construct a table of what people love the most, in order, and then those info sheets become our priority. All right, challenges. Well, as you can guess, when you have that massive amount of content, updating the website becomes a challenge. So we're also working in 2 languages. So if we make a minor change to one of our info sheet, right away it affects the other version of the info sheet. So if you think about it, if you change only one version, then you'll end up having 600 plus info sheets to take care of instead of 300 plus. So we always have to tailor to that and make sure that our actions are pretty much simultaneous, or at least to keep track of what's been changed in French or in English, and do the same thing to the other version. The other thing is expertise needed, because when you have a content-based website, you have to make sure you really understand the law related to that content. So we may have a certain amount of areas of expertise in our website, but there are other areas where we lack expertise. The back end, well, as I showed you, it's like we have to reformat everything, and we're also tied to a fixed format of questions and answers, which could be really great for some kinds of contents, or for most kinds of contents, but not for all kinds of contents. So we may want to add graphics, tables, etc. And then as for interactivity, well, we started like with Twitter and Facebook and so on, but maybe everybody's trying to do more. So instead of pushing content to users, we have to have more of a dialogue. And that obviously takes staff and changes in technology. So strategies, well, for updates, we're working on a database where if we type in a section of the law, it would we'd get the info sheets that are affected right away. So they would pop up 7, 10, 201, Section 3 of the Divorce Act. So we're heading more and more towards automatizing certain things that we can make render automatic. We're also building a network of experts and translators. So for things we don't necessarily have the expertise for in terms of legal matters, we can send it to an expert and then get it back and plain language it if you want. We're definitely going towards a new backend. We're hoping, it's definitely going to open up new possibilities for content and increase the interactivity. So that's all for me. I invite you to ask questions, I guess, once the other panelists are done, and we'd be happy to answer those.
And there's lots of really good information there. And I'll just remind participants that you can send in your questions to the Q&A feature as speakers are speaking. So good way you think of it when they're speaking, and we will be asking the panelists to answer the questions at the end. But please send in questions as you think of them. Thanks. And I'll just pass the control over now to InMyLanguage.org, and it's Dave Montague.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, Dave.
All right. Hi, everybody. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about InMyLanguage.org. We're going to go through a brief overview, talk a little bit about the context. I'd originally called it challenges, but I felt that maybe I'll try to be more positive and call it context of what we've been dealing with ourselves. But I want to talk about some of the issues that we went through to create what is in essence an 11-language website. It's not a legal focus per se, but one of our sections is about legal issues. It's a site for newcomers to Ontario and those thinking about coming to Ontario. And so what we were asked to do is to create more or less a site that had 11 versions of the same content. And this would be on everything from health, immigration issues, housing, education, legal services, community and recreation, everything like that. I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with settlement.org, but it's more or less, that's a site that we run as well. And it's settlement.org is one of the big sites for newcomers to Ontario. And this, in my language, is settlement.org in 11 languages, more or less. So I'm going to take you through some of the development phase, and then I'm going to hand it over to Majda at one point. Majda is the content coordinator, and what she had to do was to take 300 documents and turn them into 3,000 documents. So we'll talk a bit about that. All right, so here we go. Let's see if the arrows work. And no. All right, let's try again. There we go. Yeah, one of the main things that CIC, Citizenship and Immigration Canada, wanted us to do was to build a multilingual website with an emphasis on getting users to print the information, to share it in the ethnic press, to share it with their friends and families, because as you probably in every sector, when people go looking for services or for advice, they usually go to friends and families first, and they don't always get the best information there. So what we're trying to do is show people to get them the best information that they can share when they're asked. Our funder is Citizenship and Immigration Canada, and Maj and I work for OCASI, which is the Ontario Council of Agencies Serving Immigrants. And we launched on September 23rd last year. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of the context of, I can't even say now, but the last panelist really talked about it, is the idea of the context around keeping content up to date. Each language, and I didn't give a list, but we're talking Arabic, Urdu, Tamil, all the really hard ones, if you will. We've done right-to-left languages, languages of different sizes. The scripts are completely different from what English or French would ever do on the screen. And at the same time, what we've had to do is take 300 settlement.org documents and turn them into 3,000. And Maja, again, will talk about that. We've also had the issues with translation. As anybody who's done a translation project will tell you, everybody has an opinion on what is the right way to say a phrase or a term. And when, especially with legal issues, there's no room for mistakes. So we've placed a lot of emphasis on the translation process, and Maja will take you through the details of that. One of the things that CIC wanted was to make the site copyright free. Now that's not actually a thing, but what they really were trying to say is that they wanted the site to be free of restrictions, so people can copy and paste the information. We've created some tools that let people brand or customize articles, and I'll show you that as well. And the biggest thing that keeps me up at night is keep the site online. We launched September 23rd. We had a Government of Canada press release and everything. The minister mentioned it. And less than a day later, we were down for 3 days. It was the longest weekend of my life. So when you build big things, they can often crash in big ways. So that's always something that's in my mind. All right, so now we'll get into sort of the development phase. This page is a little busy, but it does kind of represent the busyness of how the development of this site. It more or less took about 2 years, I would say, from the beginning of the process to actually launching the site. The site itself, and Masha will take you through a tour if you haven't looked at it online already. The site itself is, if you just looked at one language, it's not that big. It's 8 subtopics, health, immigration, but when you times everything by 11, everything gets huge. So we knew from the very beginning that we wanted to have a very specific and a very organized development process. So the first thing we did is hired a group called Usability Matters, and they're usability experts, the whole idea of user experience. And what they brought to us was the idea of wireframing, and what that meant was you come to a decision on every element on your page on the website before you've even done anything regarding coding or HTML or web design. Everything that you're looking on that page there with the little arrows. Oh, let me do my arrows here. Things like the numbers there. Each one of those numbers has another part of the document that details what happens when somebody clicks on that print button, what happens when somebody clicks on Add to My Favorites. And we did all of this in Word, like it's all offline testing and prototyping. And then when we were done, what they did is they took all these designs here in this wireframe version and they cut them out, literally created little tiny pieces of paper, and we used those pieces of paper to test with users in 11 languages. Because as you see down here, we also prototyped each of the different languages. This was the best thing we've ever done, because the end product was about a 40-page document that had every single page on the site laid out. It's not pretty yet, but it was laid out exactly the way it would make it to this, exactly the way it'll make it to the site, and it'll make it. And it was also something that I could take to a graphic designer and say, we don't have to worry. You don't have to have the back and forth about what goes where. This is where everything goes. Now it's your job to make it look good. And we are also to take it. We could also take it to the web designer, the programmer, and say, listen, these are all the features that we want. Because again, we had already worked out everything that is going to happen when they click. So we had this document that made it so easy to move forward. Speaking with so first was the wireframe, and then came graphic design and the programming. The graphic design, I can tell you, was a chore. We're talking about building a site that is somehow culturally sensitive for like a vast majority of the world. Colors mean certain things in certain cultures. There was the idea of right to left. Arabic and Urdu everything is flipped more or less to this. What we read left to right, they read right to left, and so there were so many different elements and certain fonts and scripts like the Tamil font and the Russian scripts. They're huge comparatively. So the same button that worked in English and Spanish does not work in Russian. So there were so many different elements that we had to work on. We also had to create logos in 11 languages. Again, so the biggest process we had here was to create a site that didn't look, every language looked as polished as the English one. It wasn't English and 10 others. Every single one is a site of its own. So yeah, the design process was an amazing thing. It took about 6 months just to get to the end of the wireframing and the graphic design process. And if we had lots of time, I'd tell you more about that. So I'll keep going on. I'm actually going to hand this over to Mazda, and she's going to take you through some of the basics of how we selected the content and how we got the content onto the site, and then she'll take you for a site tour as well. Mazda?
Thanks, Rick. Hi. So yeah, I will be talking about some content selection and translation process that we had. During the content selection, we decided not to create new documents and to use the online resources that we had either on our other website, settlement.org, or on other resources from our community partners. So we selected initially the content based on the 8 main categories that we had. And we had another requirement for the project, which was to make the articles and all the websites available for users offline as well. So we had to edit the documents because, for example, some of them had links embedded to the main article, some of them had linking to other websites or to other resources. So we, during the editing process, we removed all those embedded links and any dynamic element into the articles and added more contact information and, for example, working hours of different offices or wherever we were talking in the articles to the main article. So this way, the service providers could easily print the document and share it with the users who doesn't have access to the internet, and they could use the printout version of the materials. After editing the document, it was the translation process that we had to do, and which was the main activity of the project. As you can see here, we had different phases for the translation. Initially, to select the translation agencies, we selected 4 major translation companies that we had worked with or our partners had worked with, and sent 3 articles for translation into all languages. After we got the translations back, we sent it for proofreading to our trusted proofreaders, and after that, we did 2 community reviews on the documents. Based on the final score that we got for each translation agency, we selected 2 of them and contracted them for the entire translation process. 2 main things were included in the contract. First was the translators should be residents of Ontario, and the reason for that was they should be familiar with the terms that we use in Ontario. And the second thing is there are some terms in other languages that newcomers use, specifically here in Ontario, so we wanted the translators to be familiar with that. And also we wanted them to use the same translators all over the project, so we'll have the same translators that we tested during the whole process. Well, although there were changes a few times, but each time when there were changes, we had to do testing of the new translators and then go ahead with the translation. So after selecting the translation agencies, it came to the translation of each document by itself. As you can see here, when we got when we sent the document for translation, what the agency did, they translated the document and sent it for proofreading by second person. And after that, we got the translation. We sent it back to our trusted proofreaders and then to community reviewers. When we got their comments back, we sent it back to the original translator, and they got the final document, which was based on the translator, it was the final document which was ready to go live. We send it back to another community reviewer to make sure that everything is fine and we can go ahead with it. When we receive the final community review approval, we put the documents into database. But still, we added another step of quality control into it. Before putting everything live, we asked our translators to check them, and if there was any problem, they would let us know, and we wouldn't go live with it. You can see, like, we took lots of steps to make sure that the quality of translation is of a high quality, but still there are, from time to time, we receive comments that there are misspelling in some of the parts, there are errors, and, well, we are doing the quality control ongoingly, and we are checking the documents from time to time. So here I will show you a few features of the site. Here, as you can see, it's the front page of the website. Here you can see the language bar that you can select the language that you want the website to see. For example, here we have selected English, so we see the website in English, and if we select any other language, we will see it in that language. In this part, you will see the popular article section. That shows the popular article in each section, in each language. And, well, it's interesting that they are different language by language. For example, in Arabic, the popular article is how do I apply for Canadian citizenship, while in Russian it is, well, I pay taxes in Canada. And as you see, for example, here in English, it's how do I look for a job in Canada. So it is interesting to see, like, different communities are looking for different information. Here you will see we are on the article page. From drop-down menu, you can select the language to change the article itself. So, for example, if you select Urdu, you will see the document in Urdu, but the whole site is still in English. And here, if you select on the language bar, if you select, for example, Russian, you will see that the whole website will change into Russian, but the document itself will stay in Urdu. So these are some of the features, but I think you have to go to the website. You will see all the other features there. I will talk a bit about the customization, which is a great thing that we have on our website. When you log into the website, you can customize a document. What we mean by customize is you can add your logo to the article. You can add your address. If you have any notes, for example, the time of your next appointment with the client or any other information, you can put it in this section and then print the document and give it to the client. This will be the final document, how it will look like before printing the article. So here I put my logo and address, and, well, if I had notes, I would show on the bottom of the article. Okay, so I think that's about the content. I will hand it back to Dave, so he will talk about the content management.
All right. Thanks, Maja. Yes, I think everybody knows we're running low, so I keep moving here. Come on. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the content management system. We have, more or less, we have two. Because the site itself is in 11 languages, we knew right from the beginning that we weren't going to build 11 static HTML websites. More or less what we've done is create one sort of master set of code, and then everything from images to labels to any text you see on the screen in any language is embedded in the website. Is embedded in the database. So I can go into any of these things. They're a little hard to see here, but each one of these, this one is about the About page, or this is the Contact page, Copyright page. I can open that in any of the 11 languages, and I have an edit box where I can go and make changes. So I don't have to upload web pages. I don't have to. It would be an impossible thing to manage. The other, I'll just take another example here. One of the best things that we did as well is created a sitemap generator. Because we use Google search engine as the site search, trying to find a search engine that adequately searches 11 languages was also a pain. But of course, Google did it pretty well. So we need to make sure, though, that Google has indexed our site all 11 languages. So what we can do is just a click of a button, especially this one here. if I just click that button, it creates a set of code and a set of files that automatically get emailed to some web page at Google, and it's the whole, it gets added to the index. It's something automatic. We have it set up on a schedule. It's amazing. The other thing I can do as well is I can manage all the different emails and notifications that go out, because as we've mentioned, because a lot of what we want to do is push content offline, we also want to make sure people know when there have been changes to laws, changes. That's our biggest fear. Is like when somebody prints out 50 versions of one of our articles about a legal issue or a housing tenant issue, and the law changes, and then they're using our materials, but they don't know the law's changed. So if they customize or favorite an article, they'll get an automatic email if we make a change of a if it's a. We can have different levels of severities, if you will, levels of changes. And if it's a critical change, everybody who's ever sort of favorited or customized an article will get an email that this article's been updated. You should delete everything you've got and then come back to the site and get a new version. So that's the admin area for sort of the public site and the user base that we have. Really, I could spend 15 minutes talking about this section back here. This is what we call Babel, and it's our content management system for the 3,000 plus articles that we have. In a nutshell, what it is every article has what I would call it's called a parent page, and then you have 11 children. Each article, 11 versions of the article is in the database. And what we would do in here is if you wanted to add or edit if you wanted to edit the Urdu one, you would just click on there, or the Tamil one. Let me just get in there. And this is what they would see. This is the Tamil version of that article. And what we can do in here, it's crazy to look at, I know, and I've had a data entry person more or less full-time for a year doing this, putting in all 3,000 articles. But this is how we do it. We HTML Word versions that come from the translators, paste it in here, and hope that when it finally gets to the screen, it still looks like it was supposed to. If anybody has worked with the non-Latin-based scripts, sending stuff to the graphic designers has been a disaster sometimes. Things have gone on the site that are completely wrong when we were still testing, even though it looks fine to you because it kind of looks like the way it came from the translator. But of course, there's such subtle things. But the Babel, the content management system we have, it lets us control the categories or where each article is displayed on the site. So whatever I click inside here, this categories area are the pages that the article will show up on the site. Related documents, of course. We can also control the PDF security. Right now, everything's set wide open, but if we had a partner that didn't want people to be able to print or share for some reason, we could control that there. And we can also track the activity of each article, what kind of usage it gets, but also the editing history. Again, if I go forward one, this prior revisions one, sorry, let's see, the prior revisions button, that gives us a list of all the different, it's not the exact changes. We could have done like a track changes thing, but I just felt that was going to be a really expensive thing to try to track changes on all 11 languages. But the fact is what we've done is track the sort of type of change, a minor change, major change, that kind of thing. So the Babel has all sorts of other things that's in there that everything's online. Because it's so huge, we've been able to, we put everything in a database. The last thing I want to show you is here, we talk about statistics and we run Google Analytics, but some of the things I really wanted to see were our people, of course, what articles are the most popular in certain languages. Of course, and they vary. It's like Masha said, the types of articles vary widely based on the language. But we can also see per article if it's been customized or branded, we call it here, how many have printed out just a PDF, how many have been added to favorites, and we can see that for every article. We can also see things like when was the last time an article was updated, like in a visual format, so we know quickly which articles need looking. Yeah, I know I'm done, and so it's quite the amazing website. And again, the administrative area for me has been like the most fun. I didn't build it, but we helped design it. And if anybody wanted to know more about it, I'd gladly talk sort of on the side about that. So I will be done with that, I think, yes. All right, thanks very much.
Great. Thanks very much, Dave and Moshta. And that's a lot of really useful information about the challenges of multilingual content and how you're solving them. Now, we've got 8 or 9 questions here. We're going to do our best to hand them over to the panelists. And the first one, we actually had one come in from chat which was related to Kirsten's. How well used are the evaluation forms on the Educaloi web pages? And Kim also asked, what kind of response rate do you get on those evaluation forms? So, Educaloi?
Yes, it's me, Hubert. I'll answer that one. Actually, I just, while you guys were speaking, I just checked, and actually the answer rate is about half of 1%, so it's not huge, but it's still 534 in the example, the one info sheet I took. 534 people that took the time to send us feedback. That's in the 1 year, so it's still useful. It's very useful. It's something we consider when we work on an info sheet. But you have to keep it in context that compared to how many page views it got, it's not a huge percentage.
Great, thank you. And so the first several questions are for Educaloi. From Teresa, what is your new back-end solution provider, /provider?
Okay, that'll be me again, sorry. Hubert here. We are in the middle, actually, we're working with InPix, they're a web strategy company, and we're in the phase right now of determining exactly what our needs are, mapping out what requirements we're going to have and everything, and that's going to decide which content management system we're going to go with. We have a good idea that it's going to be an open source solution, but right now we're still in the strategy phase and the mapping out requirements phase. We'll let you know, Teresa, when we find out.
Great, thank you. And from Kelly, how did you choose what languages you covered? No,
I think that was more for
InMyLanguage. Yeah.
InMyLanguage. I can answer that one. It's Dave here. Really, what it was a direction from CIC, from the government. When they put out the RFP, they actually listed the languages that they wanted to see on the site. I don't know if they had the best grasp of it at some point because they made a couple mistakes even in what those languages were, because they had done languages that were spoken as opposed to written. But yeah, no, we didn't have a choice. The one that was always a glaring one that's not there is Farsi, which is one that we probably should have fought to have added.
Okay, and from Max, do you rely on volunteer experts and translators? And it was answered by Miriam. Yes, some volunteers and some paid. And from Kirsten, I don't know if I missed this in your presentation, but who does the community review in the translation process? That's InMyLanguage.
Masha? Masha's muted.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. I guess I unmuted myself. Yeah, okay. What happened with the translation, I think you're talking about proofreading and community review only. For proofreading, we have paid proofreaders. For community review, for some of the languages, they are volunteers, and for some of the languages, they are paid. And how we selected them, because the resources that we want to have online, they are settlement related. So we decided to go ahead with settlement workers or other service providers who are familiar with the terms. So we sent email to our member agencies and also through our network to other people. And from there, we recruited community reviewers. And as I mentioned, some of them are paid, some of them are volunteers. For one or two of the languages, the community reviewers are from ethnic media, and they are writers in their language. I hope I've responded to the question.
Thanks, Marcia. And from Kelly, asks, what do you mean push content offline? Do you mean people print it for their clients?
Yeah, exactly. InMyLanguage was really the result of a big study that was done about how newcomers find information and how they use media. And some of the recommendations were more information in multiple languages and to not rely so much on the internet, because not everybody gets online, and especially if it's going to be in English, it's not always very helpful. So we took sort of what we could out of that, and one of the goals of our site was to, so that was the editing part. Everything that we have on settlement.org is all about you're online. We'll give you a link to go to somewhere else online. That'll probably have your answer. But we couldn't rely on that because what we wanted to do was make sure that, say, somebody at a doctor's office, maybe the receptionist who gets questions about, oh, I've lost my health card from somebody very brand new, or how do I get a health card? She could go to our website beforehand, print off 30 copies of that same article in Urdu. She can surf the site in English, but find an Urdu version of the article, print it off, and just have it under her desk. And we wanted it so that the article itself didn't rely on the web to find the real information that you needed. So that was the whole idea, yeah, is to get the information, to make it multiple, useful online and useful offline. So when you're on our articles, you'll see that we've taken the links out of the articles themselves. They're at the bottom, and each article only has a few links. We tried to make it as print-friendly as possible.
Great, thanks, Dave. And from Teresa, how much do you pay monthly or annually for your content management system?
Is that for everybody, or?
Well.
I can tell you on our end, we don't pay monthly, but we paid a lot up front. This site was really well resourced. We're lucky. The first 2 years of funding have been quite good. So we were able to build from scratch this Babel and everything associated with the website. So we don't pay an ongoing cost. We have lots of other ongoing costs like hosting and like we have servers and firewalls and everything to host settlement.org and InMyLanguage and a bunch of other things. But as far as the actual ongoing cost for this site, we paid for it as a project with a developer.
And how about Educaloi? Do you want to answer that question? How much do you pay monthly, annually? Yeah.
Again, that'd be me. We actually we paid upfront, and there's no monthly or annual fee. Now, for the new solution we're going to be going for, I obviously can't tell you yet.
Okay, thank you. And from Miriam, to InMyLanguage, since most translators don't have a legal background, how do you ensure the legal accuracy of the information?
Majda, you can take that one.
Yeah, it's me again, Majda. Actually, as I mentioned, the community review was the main resource to ensure the quality of the legal information. And also when we send to the translation companies, that was one of the requirements for legal documents. The translators should be familiar with the legal terms, and then the community reviewers were people for that part of the documents were people who were familiar with the legal content, so that way we made sure that the quality of the translation is good enough for the website.
I can also say that we had no shortage of people telling us what was good and mostly what was wrong with the site when we first launched. So, I mean, that always seems to be the case. People did like the site, but you'll always hear more from people that have issues. And so right off the bat, we had an issue where a law had changed from, in English, it was fine, but then during the almost year-long process of translation, a law changed, and it was more or less a regulation changed about who can serve as a guarantor or something like that. And it went live to the site in Russian with the mistake. And yeah, somebody was on us in a day, and it was a whole big thing. But in the end, we do get a lot of policing and feedback from the community, because people, the settlement workers or whoever, use it every day, and when it's in their own language, they know what the English law would be, and then they see it in their own language. They want their language version to be as up to date as the English one.
Thanks. I'm wondering, Miriam, if you'd like to speak to that. Are all your translations done by lawyers, or?
Yeah, they are. For now, they are all done by lawyers. Yeah. Thank you.
If there's any more questions, we still have a couple of minutes. And also, if panelists have any other questions for each other, or anyone here.
I have a question for InMyLanguage. I was wondering, how do you, what system do you use to verify the legal accuracy of the English if it changes, if the law changes? What are you using to keep track of changes in the law? I
have a couple things I can say to that, but the basis, because we work in the same office as settlement.org, like I'm the manager for that website too, we have a long history of maintaining a legal section. And so what we do is we have content editors whose role is to stay on top of that kind of information. The other thing we do is we also try to not go too deep into legal information. We know our limits. We don't have lawyers on staff. We don't want to be that one to give somebody the wrong information that could send them down a path. So we don't necessarily get into the detail that Clio or your site would get into. And but for us, the legal section of our site is, and the immigration section of our site are the ones that probably keep us up the most as far as keeping our ear to the ground. And like you, we use services that help update us. One we use is called Watch This Page. It's a service similar where you can put in a bunch of URLs or pages that you want to watch, and if there's a change, it'll send you a notification and it'll send you the updated information. And it's a free service as well. It's not beautiful to look at, but it actually works very well. Masha, you might want to talk about how you're integrated in with the settlement folks.
Yeah, actually we received direct email from our settlement.org partners and teams, and also there are some of the legal information that we have online are from our partner agencies, for example, from ClioNet. They will inform us if there is any change in their articles, and then we will know that there is a change in law or any regulation there. And if not, if it's only from the materials that we have on our site, we will receive the notification from time to time from settlement.org. And that way, when we change the English, we will change all the other languages as well.
Thanks, Marcia. And we'll just take this last question from Kirsten. Dave, are the funders on board for the long haul? I know you had great funding for 2 years. What happens after that?
Yeah, no, I don't know if you guys know much about the settlement sector here in Ontario, but it's been taking a beating this year. We've really we've had it good for the last 3 or 4 years, so that's why we have things like InMyLanguage. This year, I have more or less some money to do some translations of fixes, but unless something changes this year, we won't be adding much. But we have enough money to maintain what we have, and I have more or less 2 full-time staff dedicated to keeping the site running. Like Masha for sure is the main person, and I have money for the technology and everything that'll keep it hosted. So again, relatively speaking, we're still very well funded. But yeah, over the last couple of years, it's I won't be shy to say it's been well over $1 million that we spent on this site. A lot of that went to translation. It's not all technology. Like a majority went to translation.
Great. Thanks, Dave. And so thanks to everyone for all the great questions and answers. And we'll just start our wrap-up now so we can get finished reasonably on time. So we hope to see you at the National Conference in Vancouver, February 23rd, 24th, Enhancing Access to Justice Through Effective Use of Technology. The full conference program is now online at justaclickaway.ca. And a breakout session at the conference will build on this webinar series. The session is on day 2, Thursday, at 1:30, and it's called Portals and Other Models for Online Public Legal Education. What are the next steps? It'll feature a panel drawn from the webinar presenters, and it will distill best practices. When is a portal a good strategy, and when is a content site a good strategy? And key learning points to share with those starting today. And they'll be discussing how we can increase sharing, looking at ways to use the work of others as a starting point for your site, and other ideas for sharing. And we're now finished our webinar series. And I'll just mention that we'll be following up with a short survey about the webinars, and we'd really like your feedback on that. And finally, we'd really like to thank all of our wonderful presenters and the Law Foundation of Ontario and all of you for participating. Thank you, and hope to see you in Vancouver.
All right, thank you.